Um, just a clarification. I'm not filming this to put this online. However, if it does one day show up online, uh, I'm sorry. But the way that I understand things is that basically that I am uh, basically, I have learned how to open up a specific part of my brain, if you will, to uh, a higher dimension that is not visible to the normal dimension that we perceive with our five senses. The higher dimension that I'm able to perceive is basically, um, more energetic than tangible. I mean, this dimension as well is energetic, but it's just more dense. It's physical. It's solid, but it's just more like ice, basically. Like ice is just at this lower temperature, right? And so basically, everything basically has its own relative temperature. That if everything was like hotter, these materials would be doing different things, right? And so, but because it's in this current temperature, right? And so basically, for lack of a better word, uh, humans have an internal temperature that is basically controlling the reality around them. So if you could control your temperature, you basically set the tone for the reality around you. So this temperature, I mean, it's not like so again, so in the physical world, temperature is a good way, like ice, becomes water, becomes heat, right? Or I mean, steam. So in the same way that in the human analogy here is that we've got like depression, boredom, and then like intellectual curiosity or fun, for lack of a better word, right? And so if you are able to stay at one of those temperatures, the entire reality begins to match around that. Okay, so I know it's kind of like a complicated story to to even fathom, right? I mean, this, what are you even talking about, right? But obviously, this message isn't for everybody because not everybody's going to understand exactly what's going on. But the people that could possibly begin to understand are the people that have done a lot of meditation. That is probably the single most beneficial practice that anybody on the planet could be doing right now to further the expansion of their consciousness. Because even if you do something like weed or cannabis, you'll get the expansion, but without the meditation, you kind of get that like, uh, it's all a dream kind of. It was like that was a half baked idea. As you expand into the higher consciousness, you return to your lower consciousness and you return to the 9 to 5 and you return to the lame, you know what I mean? Like, so you have to basically somehow, aka meditation, learn to bring the higher intelligence, the higher dimension into you. it's not about bringing it to the reality. It's about channeling it through you. And so if you to look at a graph of the future, you know what I mean? You get this like, do you see that graph? It's like this, right? So you think, right? I mean, because I'm just like wiggling my finger. But if you look into the future and there's this thing you want to have like called progress, for example, right? The graph goes like this. But actually, the higher intelligence graph, right? I mean, if you look at all realistic graphs, right? There's this kind of like general progression that the sense that we're progressing, you know what I mean? Like it's a sense that we're progressing. How do you know you're progressing? Well, look at the chart and then you'll see it and there's just like, oh, or it's progressing that way, right? Like every single one has this like, but there's this different kind of uh, graph that exists, and this one goes like, it's like the elevator, yeah. And that one's just like, yeah, but that's like the unicorn, you know, like that's the, but guess what? It's real. And obviously, if anybody's watching like the Bitcoin kind of thing happening, it becomes really apparent that something is really happening. And by really happening, I mean like this is real, right? Like I talked to a millionaire. He said, I invest $10,000 a month into Bitcoin. And you know what I did? I was like, okay. And I put in $100 like immediately. Because like when somebody with money speaks, you should listen. And so, you know, I took some advice and now like, holy shit, like this thing, this is real because it's based on science. And you know what science is based on? Truth. And you know what truth is based on? Do you? So basically, um, there is this certain thing called belief. And basically the belief is, you know, the more people believe, the more momentum you get, right? And so that's why traffic laws exist or you know like well anything really because like as soon as you see like the first automobile, right, everybody believes, well, that's going to get me faster to my destination than a horse, right? I mean it's self-evident, right? Like yep, I want one of those, right? Because I want speed. And so in the same way it's like, you know, email, right, like comes out like, yeah, I'd rather get that message over there now as opposed to later, right? And so then you get to this level of like, okay, why am I doing anything not through the iPhone? Because like it's like instantly everybody and the grandma can begin to like communicate instantly, right? And so basically, a long story short is that you guys gotta meditate a little more than before. Um, Look, I know, like, you want to like see somebody like in a suit, you know, or like at a desk or something, you know, like hey, let's speak English, right? But basically, I'm just trying to give you the most realistic possible fucking truth that I could possibly give you, right? And I got to try to talk normal, right? But one of the crazy things that happens is that once you start to talk to anybody, right? You change, right? You start to adapt and you start to well, you say what you got to say to get through the situation, right? So if you go to the store, you got to say what you got to say, right? And if you go to your own family, you got to say what you got to say, right? But the thing that I want to tell you more than anything is that you just got to listen, right? And if you just listen over and over and over again, then you'll see how simple this process is. All you got to do is listen, listen, listen mimic, 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 and then you just kind of gotta do it over and over and over again. And then you gotta do it over and over and over again. And then you gotta do it over and over and over again. Anyway, I think I've rambled enough, but I hope that you learned something from this lesson. Anyway, take it easy. Talk to you guys later. じゃあね。Bye bye.